Hello and welcome. Typically whenever I finish a book, I try to do a chat fairly quickly, while the book is still fresh in my mind. And today I was sort of in a quandary because I finished The Night of the Hunter by Davis Grubb, but I do not want to post a chat on this book just yet because I read this book as a part of the Book to Film Club that has been started by Memento Mori, and I will link a link down to his introduction video below if anybody's interested in this project. But this was the June selection, and so I noticed on his introduction video he is not posting his video on the book and film until the last Thursday of the month. So I will wait to post the chat for this book at that point. So it'll be the last Thursday of June, and then each month, the last Thursday of each month subsequent for the books to follow. But typically what I do in my chats, I'll chat about a book, and then I'll also touch base briefly on what I'm currently reading, as well as do a drawing to choose my next read off of my priority reading list. So I thought I would go ahead and do that this time, but I thought this would be a good time to chat about some audiobooks that I've been listening to. I've just recently discovered really audiobooks. I listened to an audiobook of Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy many, many years ago, and that's the only audiobook experience I ever had. But then if you saw one of my videos recently where I talked about I had recently learned how to knit, and so one thing that I found that I can listen to while I'm knitting, because I need to actually, since I'm a new knitter, I need to actually kind of pay attention to my knitting, whatever project it is. But then I found I could listen to some audiobooks, especially books that I've already read. So their books are already familiar to me. So I thought I would just kind of talk a bit about those, the ones. Now I've listened to these first four. These first books were all, I listened to them on Spotify, so they were, part of that. I don't know who read most of these, but the first book I actually tried to listen to was Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This was a wordscape reading, and this was, I thought, very well read. I enjoyed listening to this very much. I've read Sense and Sensibility. Speaking of book to films, I also love the movie Sense and Sensibility starring Emma Thompson, back from the 90s. But Sense and Sensibility is a familiar story to me, so this was the first audio experience that I had with it, and I thought that I really enjoyed the experience. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get a little more ambitious, and so the next one I listened to was really a whopper. It was Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens, another wordscape book. Little Dorrit. This took a long time to listen to because this is a mammoth book. Now, I read this book many years ago, probably in the 90s. Sometimes I read through almost all of Charles Dickens. I think I missed one book, one of his novels at the time. So I had heard, I'm familiar with this story, but the characterizations, sometimes in this reading, the voice actress who read this, she just did a great job with the different characters. And so I found it really engaging. This is a story about poverty. So riches and poverty. It's about a poorhouse, a family that is in, a debtor's prison. And Little Dorrit is the main character, and she is raised in this debtor's prison. And then their fortunes change several times throughout the course. And then there's this big mystery as well. So it was kind of like intriguing. I was like really trying to figure out the mystery as well. So I did enjoy listening to Little Dorrit very much, although that did take me a while. So then I decided to listen to let's see, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Listen to this. This was a fairly quick listen. I did not love listening to this as much as I did reading the book. I've read this book several times, and to me the book is very entertaining. Maybe it was just the way it was read in this particular instance, but I feel like my reading experience of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was better than the listening experience. So then finally, I decided to give. Now this is the only one. This is the only one of the books I've actually never read. I have never read Dante's Inferno, so this was a modern English translation. Looks like it was read by someone named Joe J. Thomas. I listened to this, the way it all fell out, I was driving a lot. So this one I mostly listened to while driving, and that probably distracted from my attention because I wasn't, I lost, periodically would lose track of, what was going on because something in the traffic or whatever had caught my attention. So I listened to it, parts of it twice, but I really think, after listening to this, I really think that I need to read Dante's Inferno because there's a lot of layers. There's a YouTube channel called Tim Nance, where he breaks down the Dante's Inferno, actually all of the Divine Comedy, but the Inferno. I will link to that below because I think this is a really good YouTube commentary on the Inferno and all the different levels of meaning that there are in it, which I really just couldn't grasp in the audio version, so I really think I need to give that one a read. And then when I'm currently, I listen to all of those on Spotify, and then I discovered my public library has this thing called the Maryland Digital E-Consortium, and where you can borrow ebooks, for free. And so I'm listening to right now another Charles Dickens, Our Mutual Friend. This is read by Simon Vance. This is the unabridged. This is another whopper. I think I have 20-something hours left to go in this, so I might have to renew this checkout because I don't know if I'll get finished in the time frame. But this audiobook experience, I think I didn't want to do book chats on them like I do the books that I read. This is kind of just like a side thing that I'm doing, and it's not interfering with my priority reading. It's just sort of an extra thing that I've sort of learned to do. And I thought, well, this is kind of good, especially to re-engage with works that I've already read, so I'm already familiar with, but, engage with them on a different level, because it is different listening to them than it is reading them, reading books for sure from my experience. So yeah, so I think I'll continue on and continue on listening to things here and there, and maybe I'll do occasional wrap-up videos like this for the audiobooks, where I just touch base briefly on what it is that I've been listening to over the last month or so, couple of months. So stay tuned for that, and also stay tuned for the chat on the Night of the Hunter, which will be coming up at the end of the month. But what I am currently reading, back to my priority reading list, The Night of the Hunter was an interruption read, off of my priority reading. So I am now just started Testaments of Time by Leo Deuel. This is a book about search for lost ancient manuscripts. And so it is one of my books about books selection off of my priority reading. And I have been looking forward to getting to this, so I cannot wait to dive into this. I'm really just now getting started. So let's do a drawing, and let's just see what the random universe wants me to read next off of my priority list. I will have another interruption read next month when we have our next selection for the Book to Film Club, which will be Children of Men by P.D. James. So that'll be coming up in July. But my next read off of my list is going to be Istanbul. Istanbul. So here it is. All of my... It's a printed book, not an ebook. Istanbul by Bettany Hughes. This is a biography of A Tale of Three Cities, it says. So this is a biography of a place. So this is, around place. I had several selections around place. So I read earlier this year a biography of Jerusalem, and I will be diving into Istanbul next. I have visited Istanbul before, and it is one of my favorite cities. So this will be coming up following Testaments of Time. So until next time, take care. Bye.